Good evening. Welcome. I hope you all you're watching probably some previous content of me. Sorry about that. We're still trying to learn how to do Ask Me Anythings. But we are excited to have you. My name's Doug McClintock. I'm the president of CORA, Cincinnati Off-Road Alliance. We are the Greater Cincinnati region's natural surface trail advocacy organization, as it were. We work with mountain bikers, was our original stemming point, and now we work with all sorts of different trail users within the region to make sure that we are providing quality, wonderful, natural surface, multi-use trail opportunities for folks in the Greater Cincinnati community. We are stoked to be here with you tonight. I'm excited to hear from all of you the questions. I am here in my day job office, and thanks to Red Bike, where I work by day, they are kind enough to let me steal the internet from them so that we can do this for all of you. And also thanks to my podcast, which I will plug, the Gravel Lot podcast, because I have mics and full sound setup, which is great. So hopefully all of you can hear us and see us well. If you have any problems, please leave that information in the links in the chat so that our good friend Sherman Butler, he is our membership coordinator. He is monitoring that. He's going to post your questions up and make sure I can get to answering them and give you any of the information you have. So we'll try to be as responsive as we can to your comments and communications, but we're excited to get a chance to speak to you. So lots of things going on in our community right now. Cora's been working on a lot of stuff. We have some upcoming events that you can hear all about that stuff. And if you have questions about specific projects that we are working on right now, I'm happy to share that information with you as we do this. I'm just going to switch windows here so I can make sure I can see what everybody wants me to see and I can see this stuff. So we've got a few questions in via email and on Facebook prior to this, which is great. We certainly want to have you posting that stuff in the comments so we can do this. The first thing that we've had come in was a great live stream question is about Velo Solutions pump tracks. So for those people who do not know what a pump track is a series of rollers and bermed turns where you have to primarily pump the bike as opposed to pedaling the bike. It's kind of what you would think of as a bike playground. And there's a company actually out of Canada, and I'm trying to remember where, no, not out of Canada. Velo Solutions is out of, I want to say, Switzerland. And they have been doing paved pump tracks the world around, really, really high quality work. And it's beautiful, beautiful stuff. Massive installations, much like a skate park would be. Really cool stuff to see. We have seen in a lot of places, but we actually have a paved pump track in the Cincinnati area, actually at Lebanon Bike Park up in Lebanon, Ohio, which is a little outside the immediate Greater Cincinnati, like downtown region within the 275 loop. But that is a great example of a piece of paved pump track infrastructure. So how do we get that sort of stuff? It's hard. Pump tracks cost a lot of money to do when they're paved. That is it. It's just like a skate park. Skate parks are very expensive. Shout out Tony Hawk Foundation. They do a lot of skate parks. I think over 500 in the United States and worldwide at this point. Those costs are high. But just like they've put together a plan to do this, we can help people who want to see that in their community put a plan like that together. So the best way to do that is identify a place that you think can support this. A place in your local neighborhood, like a pocket park, can actually support a pump track, whether it's dirt or paved, and identify that in your community. The next thing to do would be, say, interface with us and say, hey, I have this idea. I think I've found the right park. I think I've got a good opportunity to do this. And then we can start helping you with the roadmap of who you need to talk to in your city. Generally, you want to talk to your parks department and say, hey, do you guys make the decisions on what goes in here, or does council make decisions on that? And you can talk to them and say, here's my idea. Here are some examples. We can show you kind of how to put a presentation together for that and have a conversation. You need to have a conversation with your local leaders and say, this is something I want to see, and here's why it can benefit the community. Once you've done that, the next step is to identify the people that you need to further entice within the government, bring them actually out to a place like Lebanon. If you can take them to Lebanon on a Saturday that's sunny and show them all the kids and families recreating there, like little kids, real little ones on Strider bikes, it will turn the key. When you put them in that place, they'll get excited and see what that can do for their community. So once you've hit those pieces, you need to start building community support, and identifying all that stuff is really, really important. But we can help give you that roadmap. I think we've moved a little bit as an organization to trying to help people learn how to fish, to use a metaphor, teach people to fish in their own community, give them the roadmap of how to communicate with their area so that they can actually accomplish things like that in their community. So if you want to see more paved pump tracks, that's the basic steps. We're happy to help you guide. You can reach out to us, info@coramtb.org. We can work on getting you meetings. We can spend time working and figuring out how to identify the right people in your community. But it really takes someone committed in that community, and then a group of parks people ready to make it happen, and then money. We got to go raise that. So that's the next step of that. I'm going to take a look here and see what else is in. Will Smotherman, you do not get a coffee mug right now. That is not how this works. Let's see. So Andrew, specifically speaking about having a pump track that's capable of hosting a Red Bull style event, that's a big facility. We need a big area to do that. And I think that sort of thing can happen. It's just going to require us to identify the right location and have community support, and someone who's really going to be the project leader in that space and says, this is the thing I want to hang my hat on, and I want to be the leader of this project. So as you'll hear me say repeatedly, we are only a board of 9 people, right, Sherman? We 9 right now? Yeah. And our membership is far larger than that. All of you have the power and the capability to help all of us grow, but it requires you to be committed to help us figure what that is and help us put a plan together for whatever you want to see. We want to support those things because we're 9 people with only 9 people's ideas. Everybody else in the community has ideas, and we want to support that. Awesome. Let's see what else we have going on in here so I can make sure I've got some more stuff. Sherman's grumbling me. He says, how do you elaborate on the remaining phases of CORA's Mount Airy plan with specific details pertaining to the heavily utilized existing trail system? That's a good question. I do want to cover that in a little bit because another question came through, which is how do hikers and bikers work together to maintain great trails for anyone? And I feel like those two things actually kind of work together. Mount Airy is a really good example of a larger trail system in Cincinnati that has a lot of multi-uses. So I think we can kind of knock those two out, and I think there's a larger discussion. I'm excited to talk about this. I think this is something that has come to the forefront and something we're working on actively with parks, and I know with a number of runners to have these conversations and figure out what this is. So one of the challenges that we have is you have a large park like Mount Airy that has traditionally had trails that were built in the 30s and the 40s from the Civilian Conservation Corps, or the CCC, back in the day. Those trails were built back at that time. Those trails were built with the trail technology of the time and no heavy machinery. Trail science has come a long way since the 30s, and now IMBA is recognized by the U.S. Forest Service as the appropriate guidelines for building trails. So we're just level setting there that most of the trail that's being built nowadays is being built to a standard that is very different than that trail. That being said, users have been using that trail in Mount Airy since the 30s. It's been there that long, and that's great. We want to have a lot of different uses in our trail systems because we know that that is important. Every trail that CORA has built to this date is a multi-use trail. So that supports hiking, that supports walking, that supports running, that supports cycling. No motorized transport, no equestrian trails that we actually share, and there's a number of reasons for that. Horses and bikes don't always get along great. Not all horses are used to bikes, so that's one thing we try to avoid. They can be trained to be, but that is one thing we try to avoid. So multi-use trails are very important to us. However, one of the things that's very important as well is making sure that we don't end up with trails that are all one thing. We don't want to turn every trail in the world into a bike accessible trail. That doesn't make sense. Frankly, there's a lot of trail at Mount Airy that couldn't support cycling. I've walked a lot of it. Steve Shuckman, the parks superintendent, has communicated with me, and I think there's an opportunity for all of us as user groups to sit down and say, what exists? What are the needs at Mount Airy of the current user groups? Address those and start to talk about what uses can be supported and where, and what things people are critically concerned about preserving as hiking only and equestrian only, and that those uses are respected and cared for. Because, we have a massive problem as cyclists in this part of the Midwest. Our soil has a lot of clay, and it does not support riding basically from, I don't know, late November, early December until last year. It was June before most of our trails were open because of the soil content here. Clay retains water, and it makes the trails break down and degrade if they're run on, or if they're walked on, or if they're ridden on. All those uses scientifically have been proven to be equal. Within that, we have chosen to close off our trails during those periods of time to maintain them, and ask the land manager to say, hey, please don't use these trails. We've invested money here. We want to see them live. That being said, I would love nothing more than to ride in the mud. I race cyclocross, I ride in the mud, and it's a lot of fun, but I won't do it on the trails that our volunteers support. And the reason for that is I want to maintain our relationships and the hard work that we put in so that when June does come around, I've got June through November to rip these trails almost on the daily. And that's wonderful because that's what we're trying to preserve. And we don't want to see soil erosion and displacement, and we don't want to see water damage. We want to see these things last longer than the time we've put in so that we try to steward them in that way. So specifically in regards to our phases of Mount Airy, as Joe Bodner, I hope I said that right, or Bodner, could be one or the other, said, I think that that's yet to be determined. We've built the process over on the side of East 74 and West Fork Road. That is multi-use trail that is specifically allowed for biking. We've kind of been hemmed in by that space, and that's okay. We do not have plans at this point to convert any of the additional trail that is in Mount Airy to mountain bike accessible trail. Certainly, we would love to consider some of those opportunities. But again, as I said, we have to evaluate all of that trail, and we have to talk about where everybody needs to be, because I know there's a massive trail running community at Mount Airy, and you've been running there for years, and that's important to me. I mean, I run trail. I like it. It makes me happy. When I run, I'd rather run on trail than on road. And I don't want to see those opportunities go away, especially things like the stone steps. They don't need to be messed with. They need to be preserved as hiking and running only trail. That's important to have that asset. But we also see and recognize the need for more mountain bike accessible trail in the community in general. So what does Mount Airy look like? I can't tell you. That's up for all of us to decide as a community and as users. And I think one of the challenges is that we haven't had the input from the trail running community in the way that we wanted to. It's hard when you have a sport that is a little more diffuse and may have, pockets of people who are in message boards who have always had access to trails, whereas mountain bikers have always had to advocate for trails and trail access. Mountain biking only came around in the 80s, and no one wanted them on their land because they thought it would destroy it. What we've proven is to be reliable stewards, and we think that bringing that stewardship that we have been doing to a community that already cares about trails and already cuts back branches and takes care of, clearing off trails and making sure there aren't down trees and all that sort of stuff, such as trail runners, we can find a lot better communication and actually more power to build and maintain better trails together than we can apart. Because if we're at loggerheads and we're trying to restrict access or are concerned about where those battle lines are drawn, we're not actually going to increase the trail inventory in this region. I mean, CORA stewards 100 miles of trail within the region, and I would hazard the guess that most trail runners run that trail when it's, open, as it were. And we appreciate that you guys are doing that. That's what they're there for. We love seeing runners on the trail. We love having that opportunity to interact. So I think there's a great a great opportunity for everyone to come together and determine for any trail in the area. The backpack trail at East Fork's a great example. We don't have access to that trail. We can't ride that trail. That's why we don't maintain that trail. We have not a lot of area, so it's hard to maintain that. But hikers and runners certainly do trim some of that stuff back. Some of the equestrians actually do too. But building those relationships, we're all working together and finding places we can recreate together is awesome. I think that's where we need to head. And I look forward to that. And I look forward to finding ways for all of us to work together in that space. I'm an open book, and I'm here to have these conversations at any time about that and find ways we can work together, because I don't want to turn the world into only mountain bikes. That's not how this works. I love mountain bikes. That's my primary exercise. That's what I love to do. I wouldn't be a president of this organization if that wasn't important to me, but it doesn't mean I'm exclusionary to other uses, and I like to find some harmony where we can work together and find places where there aren't bikes and places where there may not be running traffic. Like there's one trail in Cincinnati that's that way, and that's the Devotion trail. That is a downhill specific. It's one way, and we do not want people running up it or walking up it, because the challenge is someone's doing a very high rate of speed on a blind corner and someone could get hurt. So we try to avoid those conflicts by, moving those things around. There are places that bikes just don't work. So I know you probably have more questions about that. I'll let you all respond to that, and I'll keep moving on. I am going to have a sip of a beer, though, because mountain bikers, we do enjoy beer. And talking makes your mouth dry. So another question from Corey said, how much buy-in is there to do parallel trails with the Wasson Way from those that we need to get approval from? That's a good one. The Wasson Way is a tight corridor, and I think that provides some challenge. So if you think about parallel trails, a paved trail has a corridor generally, and that paved trail can be using walkers and strollers and kids on bikes and people running, all sorts of different uses. Parallel trail's been tried in a lot of different places, and it's amazing when it works, because what you allow to have happen is recreational natural surface opportunities that people can be going down the trail, take a little veer off, ride through the woods a little bit, and get back on the trail. That's really, really fun to see. It makes your trail experience a little different. Kids can kind of hop off and do a little dirt riding and feel like they're getting gnarly and jumping over stuff, even though they're not going fast. Those sort of opportunities are great. I think the Wasson Way is a unique opportunity because it is in an urban core. So the stakeholders in that and the land owners in that primarily are the city and the Wasson Way community. So if we want to see that sort of thing happen, what we really need is that corridor of folks to say, hey, this is something we want to see in our community, and identify the right spots. Because that corridor is so narrow, there's not as many spots as you would think to create those opportunities, those natural surface offshoots. But there are some spots that go past Kroger down to Marburg, underneath Marburg. That area may be ripe for that sort of experience. But what it takes is all of us to kind of reach out to the city and say, hey, I would like to see this. Can you pursue this? Is this something we can do? I think if we had a dedicated group of folks who lived in that area and were like, I want to see this happen from CORA, we could get a plan to the city. Mel McVeigh, the city's bike ped planner, is certainly amenable to this. Just requires us getting the right people to champion that movement. And I think that's something that could really be cool, because there isn't a lot of trail opportunity in that area. And again, the east side, while it has plenty of bike amenities such as bike lanes and all that sort of stuff, doesn't really have any natural surface opportunities, and that would be a really, really great place to do that. So a good possibility there. Let's see. Who else do we have here? What do we need to have more, or at least one flow trail? Flow trail. There's a lot of flow trail. Someone else, Aaron Whalen, asked us on Facebook and sent a question and said, literally every city has flow and jump lines. Why not Cincinnati? Let's see if there are any things about that here. What trail systems here allow machine-built options? Brown County has flow trails, machine-built, and cool hand-bit trails. Love more flow trails. Flow trails. Guess what? Guess what I like to ride? Flow trail. I'm a kind of crappy technical climber, so I don't really like that. I love flow trail. If I could ride flow trail all the live long ding dong day, I would. Challenges, we don't have a ton of it. I would definitely say that Sleepy Hollow is what we have for flow trail. That is the widest, bermiest, flowiest trail that we have. And it was machine built. Flow trail doesn't have to be machine built all the time. I would counter that argument and say there's a lot of hand built trail that's very, very flowy. If you want wider laned flow trail, yeah, we're certainly deficient in that space. Step number one, we got to find the place to do it. If you look at places like O'Bannon, and out in Indiana, down in Knoxville, Baker's Creek, Breeden is on the O'Bannon side, and then like Hobbs out in Brown County, they have land and a lot of it. We have some opportunities. There are large state parks, but what that takes is somebody being the right person to lead that project. As again, I said earlier, we are 9 members on a board and we all have our jobs and responsibilities, right? My job is to kind of keep everybody moving in their space. Plus I have projects specifically that I take care of. Sherman is running our membership drive, which we're going to talk about before we get off the horn here tonight, and let you all know about, but he's running our membership organization and setting up things like this for you. We all have our different lanes that we function in. And it can be challenging when we're trying to think of all the uses and all the things that want to happen to make all of that happen for you. Unfortunately, we're not a publicly funded municipal government with a bunch of money to make things happen. So we don't have people dedicated to trying to figure out what the next thing that needs to be in the park is, or the next thing that needs to be done here or there. So what we need to do is get the people who really want to see stuff like that happen engaged. If you see what happened at Davoo happened because people like Chad Irie and Jason Reeser and and Dave Huff and all of these Brady, all these people got together and they said, we want to build trails here. We want to make this happen. And they came and said, we're going to do this. We're going to figure out how to make this happen. What they did is they built a blueprint about how you work with communities and how you make that happen. So now we may not have Chad to build this trail for us at the massively reduced cost that he built all of the stuff at Davoo for, but what we do have is the ability to fundraise and the ability to make that piece happen. But what we need is someone with a dream. You have to have a dream of what you want to do, and you have to be willing to chase after that. It is one thing to say, I want this, and we need more of this, but we all have to walk in ourselves and say, this is what I'm willing to do to make this happen, and then push it. I think that there's a space within CORA for everyone to get involved and make their dream that they want to see in Cincinnati happen. And we want to be that inclusive organization. We want to be facilitators. We have the government connections. We've been working with all these different land managers and all these different landowners to work on this stuff. We have the ability to go in and have those negotiations. But what we need is not just people to say, we need this, but we need people to say, I want to help make this. You don't necessarily have to be the person that knows how to dig the trail. We can hire professionals for that by leveraging, funds from the cities, funds from, grants, funds from fundraising to make those things happen. But it takes somebody with a dream to come to us and say, we want to do this. Here's the people I have together. I think I've got a place we might be able to make this work. Let's try. And anytime anyone comes with that attitude, and they're willing to lead, I'm willing to put our efforts behind that. And I think the whole board would speak for me in that way. We want to see people be leaders because at some point, if other people don't come to the organization with leadership ideas, this organization goes away. And that actually leaves us all in a worse place because we don't have growth in trails and ideas. In 20 years, Flow Trail may be the worst thing in the world. No one may want it. I doubt it, but like something else could be here, like Tron Trail, right? Like where there's something that we don't all understand, but we need to be prepared to continually move forward and find and identify those locations and then have leaders lead this forward. And I personally pledge that I will do anything I can, have meetings with whomever I can to move these things forward, but it requires people to put their own effort and time in to help make these projects a reality, because just frankly, We all have day jobs. We all have other things going on, and this is a volunteer-led organization. So it's hard for us to make things happen without other people stepping up to the plate and saying, I want to be committed to this. This is where I want to plant my flag. Let's go get this. 2020, we're going to figure out how to get Flow Trail. So reach out to us. Get your friends together and say, this is our idea. What do we need to do? And come with concrete information, and we can move this sucker forward. All right, let's see. Good question. And this is an interesting one, pretty easy to handle. Question from Hark said, how do you choose to close mountain bike trails when they are on public land? Well, we don't close mountain bike trails. We can't. We don't own any land. Cincinnati Off-Road Alliance owns 0 land. We steward land for land managers. We create relationships and we build trail. Most of that trail is volunteer built, or it is built with money and grants, and most of that is viewed by these land managers as an investment. And because of that investment, and because of our soil challenges that we have here with clay and water retention, water management is everything for us. Good trail is based on water management. Grade reversals, drainages, all of that. Long-lasting, quick-drying trail comes from all of that. So because of that, we speak to them about what we have to do for maintenance. If you have a person run or walk or ride on a muddy trail, it can get damaged. It can go through freeze-thaw periods. A lot can happen, and that requires us to put a lot more man hours or woman hours or people hours into fixing those trails when the weather is good. That being said, if we're spending all our time fixing those problems, we can't build new trail or create new trail experiences. So what we do is we provide recommendations. Yes, our website may say the trail is closed. We would hope and we believe that pretty much everybody understands that that's for the benefit of the trail and for your trail experience down the road. It doesn't mean that there's a person with a badge and a gun standing there telling you to stop. We don't have that power. It is not our jurisdiction at all. We will never have that power until we own land and we can keep people off it. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to be responsible stewards and grow a relationship where the community of trail users begins to understand and respect that the trails that are being built with volunteer labor take volunteer labor to maintain. And our ecosystem here in the southwest of Ohio is particularly vulnerable to trail erosion because of our soil content. So we have to manage it differently. If we were out in Moab, very different management. They don't have to worry about the same things we have to worry about. If we were up in Vermont, very different management. They don't have to worry about that. Out in Vancouver, British Columbia, where I'm going to ride, they get a ton of rain. Their soil is peat. It drains water. You can ride when it's pouring and be fine. That is just different. And so we have to manage a little differently, but we don't close trails. We make the recommendation to the land manager that they have those trails posted as closed. And what we do is we ask you as the community to respect the fact that your friends and your neighbors are out there fixing those trails to make them as pristine as they can for you every year, and that you would respect that effort and that investment as something that's worth protecting. And well, just hang it up and run on the trainer, or ride on the trainer, or run on a treadmill, or go for a road run when those specific areas are closed. And you know what? This brings up another point someone brought up. Are there Eric Bliss said, are there any options to open newer, drier trail sections? So like, can we open part of a park when that's dry, and say the other part of a park would be kind of off limits? We can certainly explore how to do that in specific areas. I'd say that trail science has come a long way, even in the past 10 years, and we're learning a lot more. But as trail continues to get ridden in and you learn new things about that land and how it drains, it's hard to manage. The best way to build an all-weather trail is to just not care about it. And unfortunately, that's not the type of experience that we think is best for people who are getting into bikes or who are riding bikes regularly. There is trail that is like that. The other way you can do it is you can rock armor the whole thing. That is a lot of work and requires a lot of effort. But we do want to have more all-weather trails. As I said, I want to ride in the rain. I love riding in the rain. I ride my road bike in the rain. I ride my cross bike in the rain. I love that. But we need to find places to do that. That requires us to specifically build trail for that. So finding those opportunities is always something we're looking for. It's just hard to sell that to a land manager. You say, hey, here's the deal. We're going to build this thing and it's going to be bombed out and blown out and people ride it all the time. It also can cause some challenges because people don't necessarily know where you can and you can't if you're new to this sport. You just show up at a trail and you ride or you run. So building that lexicon of why we close trails is more important to us. And ultimately finding places, where we can recreate in the rain is good. I don't know exactly where they are. They've got to be out there. If you know of a place that you think could support it and would be good for trail in that space, please let us know and let us know how you have a plan, and we'll get behind it and see if we can't build more all-weather trail. At most of our already existing venues, that's just not really an option due to the topography or what we have already laid out with the land manager and so on and so forth. So let's see. Can you please publish financial statements for CORA? I'd like to know where the donations are going. Joseph Norris, awesome question. Every year, Joseph, we do release our financials from the perspective of where all our dollars went at the annual meeting, and then we publish that to everyone. The good news I can tell you is this is money that comes in is going to support, primarily support getting you trail and supporting the trail stewards. At this point, if we're fundraising for anything, that's going directly towards a project. We're not raising money to pay someone some extraordinary salary. No one's been getting rich off CORA in that perspective. We pay to have projects done because that's what we need to do. So our financials are available. If you look back on our Facebook page and whatnot, we publish our financials every year. You can see where the donations are going. The great piece is we are still an IMBA chapter, but IMBA reorganized some financials in the past several years. And now, instead of it being a percentage split based on how much you join or donate, it is actually a flat fee. So IMBA takes $12 off the top to manage our membership and support national initiatives and put money back into grants and all that sort of stuff. That's what they take. If you buy a membership for $45, I think is the lowest membership, 39. See, this is why I have our membership coordinator here with me. Excuse me. If you buy a membership for $39, $12 goes to IMBA to support all that and handle all the back end, and the organization gets $27, and that $27 goes into trail funds and for emergency maintenance and fixing bridges and working on projects at specific places. We do fundraise outside of that. We raised $31,000 last year at our fundraiser to go to be the seed money to apply for grants to finish out the trail plan at Devu. And this year we're working on a project for Mount Airy that I will be happy to discuss with you guys. So those are our financial statements are available. If you have any specific questions about those, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're happy to provide that. We're a nonprofit. All our information and our 990s are publicly available. Nothing to hide here. So happy to tell you where it's all going. Let's see. What are my thoughts on becoming an IMBA rated trail center? I'd love to be an IMBA rated trail center. I think that would be fantastic. I think the volume of trail and the way that you have to draw the map is kind of funny because our area is so urban and we don't have as much trail in a close proximity. You almost have to move the center of the map north of the city so that you can touch all the things to get the IMBA rated designation. I'm not saying the IMBA rated designation is the end all be all though. I think that is something that people have hung their hats on for a long, long time, and it meant something, as in there weren't other options. I feel that being known as an urban trail center is really our strongest game plan. We have trail at Devu, which is just south of downtown. We are building trail at Mount Airy, which is just north of downtown. Opportunities like that to put more natural surface recreational opportunities into pocket parks and in neighborhood parks really could give us a different designation and a different way of thinking about what we are. We're not going to be Knoxville. We're just not. We don't have the topography, and we certainly don't have the green space. Knoxville is very lucky in that way. Knoxville, also, MSA is not big as Cincinnati. So we have a different mathematics. And I think one of the things that we have to think about is how we look at our area and don't compare it to other specific areas and say, what do we have that's special? What makes Cincinnati Cincinnati? And how can we do what we want to do here in a very specific way that honors this community for being different than other places? It's so easy to look at BC or look at Knoxville and look at Brown County and say, I want to be that. Or for that matter, if you just want to look at Fayetteville and the whole Walmart experiment in Bentonville, to say, I want to be that. We're not Bentonville. We can't be Bentonville. That's just not us. We have an MSA of well over 2 million. It's a metropolitan area. We are dense. We don't have that green space. We have to balance this in a different way. So I challenge us from thinking about being an Imber Ride Center to thinking about being the best thing that Cincinnati can be, as opposed to trying to parse this in terms that already exist. Find a way to build the best trail we can, make it as accessible to people from their neighborhoods as we can, and put those amenities as close as we can to population so that kids and families and people getting into this sport, unlike those of us who are diehard and deep in this, can have opportunity and we can grow the pie and have more opportunities to grow our neighborhoods and grow our communities so that when people come to Cincinnati, they know that not only can they go to a Reds game and go see FCC in the new stadium and go to Bengals game and go to the aquarium in Newport and go to these amazing museums and see amazing music at amazing music venues, but they know there's a natural surface trail opportunity and they can go ride their bike. You can have all of that right here in Cincinnati. And I would challenge us to think about this community in a different way and think about where that designation doesn't matter to us anymore. We are Cincinnati, and we are known as a mountain biking town because we have the people who are passionate about it, and they love this place, and they've built something that's uniquely Cincinnati and special here. All right, more beer, and then I'm going to page down here. You guys are getting in some tons of great questions. This is awesome. What could be the logistics of building one single trail that would be ridden when wet and not maintained? Mr. Smotherman, that's a good one. I'm glad you guys are here. Yeah, just build a trail and trash it. I mean, we should, but we got to find somebody who's going to let us do that. I think there's an opportunity. It's a matter of where do you do that and find a way to isolate that so that that doesn't bleed over. If you have one trail at Davao that has that availability, what's to say that other people aren't going to be like, well, it's okay here, so I might as well go to this other one. I think we have to isolate that somewhat and find a place where we can create a trail system that can support that. Maybe there is a specific place that can do that. I mean, I don't know what it is yet, but I think that might be a way to think about the logistics of it and say, hey, let's find a place. Let's put a pin on the map. This whole system has 3 small trails, but they're fun as heck. You can ride them in the rain. They're built for it. Let's go. And everybody knows they can be there. I guarantee that place would be a hub of activity if we did have that. So let's see. I saw, someone asked, what kind of assurances can you give that if the skill park gets built in Mount Airy, a biker won't try to use some of the hiking trails? I'm worried about a biker injuring themselves or others. I can't promise you what anyone will or won't do. I just don't have control over people. I do know that most mountain bikers aren't going to go on a trail that they do not have access to just because we all respect that situation. However, there are people who don't have that lexicon or that information. The skills area at Mount Airy is going to be fairly isolated. We are looking at potentially building a trail to connect it to the other trails on the other side of West Fork Road, but we have to sign correctly. We can't guarantee anything, and I think providing an assurance or a guarantee isn't something that I can comfortably do, and I don't think anyone could. Just like I can't promise that people won't ride or run on trails that are closed. That can happen. But we hope people behave their best. We hope to give them outlets and resources and places they can ride so that they don't ride on things that they're not supposed to. And sign correctly and provide education. That's what we really have prided ourselves on doing over the past 8 to 10 years is really building that lexicon of signage and understanding for people so that they know where to ride, when to ride, and to be aware of other users. We share the trails with all the users, and not everyone behaves perfectly, but we try to be the most courteous that we can. And I think when you have a bad apple, it leaves a bad taste in everyone's mouth. And I would just encourage everyone to slow down, stop, yield to everybody, and say hi. And just get to know the people you're enjoying the trail with. I think that's the piece that we all want to be doing. And don't ride where you're not allowed to ride. You will then lose privileges to ride other places. That's how stuff gets closed. Kingdom Trails in Vermont is going through this right now, where people were not operating under the assurances of all these private landowners, and it became a big friction point, and trails are getting closed now. And we don't want to see that in Cincinnati because we don't want to see those things disappear. So it's up to all of us as cyclists who care about this amenity to take care of it and not disobey the rules in that space. Let's see. How do hikers and bikers work together to maintain great trails for everyone? This is from Erin, and she also said, how as a community do we help CORA maintain the trails we all enjoy? This again goes back to hikers and runners getting engaged. There are organizations that are coming along now that are becoming advocacy organizations for hiking and for trail running, and that's awesome. That's what we want to see. We're called the Cincinnati Off-Road Alliance. We're not called the Cincinnati Mountain Bikers Alliance because we believe in all sorts of off-road enjoyment. We think that there's an opportunity for all of us to find commonality and work together to learn how to properly maintain and repair trails. I mean, if we had the numbers of, there's something like 9 million trail runners in the United States. It's a wildly large number. Those people could be utilized as more hands and more advocates for well-built, well-maintained trail. And I think that hiking communities and trail running communities that are wondering how they can get engaged in helping their trails, even if they aren't accessible to mountain bikes, can come and learn from us. I would say that pound for pound, and I think this is a very big piece of accepted wisdom in the trail world. The pound for pound mountain bikers are the most reliable at moving trail science and trail building forward because we've had to maintain that access and grow access. Come to one of our trail days, learn from the trail stewards that are professionals and that have been doing this for years about water and drainage and controlling that, and learn about how we do that stuff, and then take that back. Come to some of our trail building seminars that we do where Sherman's had, 2 last year, Sherman? Did you do 2 of those? We did one. So we did one seminar. We're going to be doing some more. We want to do that. We want to educate people. We did 2 last year. I thought we did. See, President knows what's going on. Guy organized them. Forgot about one. But come to those, get engaged, learn. I'm a kind of crappy trail builder. I'll assess that. But the other piece of that is if you want to get engaged and trail building isn't your thing, trail advocacy and helping us figure out how to grow this pie and outreach to communities is all stuff we need. If you have a special talent or a skill or something you're passionate about doing, CORA has open arms. We want to grow this. We don't want this to just be about bikes. We want to see bikes represented because we know that has been our bread and butter, and that's the way we stepped into this conversation to gain access. But we've realized that we're larger than that, and this community needs to be an actual community. Because if you have trail runners, hikers, bird watchers, equestrians, and everyone all aligned and saying, hey, we all want to work together to build things out, what we're going to end up with is a lot stronger trail systems and a lot stronger advocacy in this general community than we would have if we were all fighting against each other or not working. It doesn't mean we all have to be in the same organization, but we need to work together to make this forward. So get involved at trail days, reach out to us, find ways to collaborate and find projects that make sense for us to work on together. It's a lot stronger that way. Let's see. So what is CORA's position on people not cleaning up behind their dogs on the trails? Yes. Thank you, Brian Childress. I appreciate that. Yeah. Pick up your poop after your dogs, please. It's just good. I have 3 dogs. Landmine pickup happens once a week, bare minimum even in the rainy season. You got to do it. You got to take care of stuff. We appreciate that. But deeper, Mitch asked, how can we reach and educate non-biking trail users on trail preservation? There's a lot of different ways. Education, outreach, trail seminars, all those things that we've been doing that we want to keep doing. I think this is a hard nut to crack because we don't necessarily know how to speak into those communities because we don't necessarily have people in them. So this ties on to what we were talking about before. If you're a hiking organization or a trail running organization and you want to know a little bit more about why we have challenges with trail and why we recommend closures for trails and kind of put those red, yellow, green, blue, which you've all been seeing right now, which means what? It means ride early in the morning when everything is still frozen. And when the sun comes out and it starts defrosting, don't ride or run. But if you want some explanations on that and why this is important, we have people who can help educate into your organization and help you learn about that stuff and get engaged so you understand and actually sit down at a granular level and answer those questions for you. So that's good. What's been my favorite beer? Chris Norris asking for season 1. I don't know what my favorite beer for season 1 was. And that's a podcast question, so I don't know. But for AMA number 1, the current thing I'm drinking is Rheingeist Truth, because Rheingeist, awesomely enough, is going to be hosting our annual meeting this year. So on February 23rd, we'll be hosting our annual meeting at Rheingeist. We hope to see you all there. I'll touch on that a little bit more in the end. So Chris, I don't know. I'd have to go back and listen to all of season 1, which I am not doing. I don't have the time for. So you tell me what my favorite beer was. What's the chances of connecting schools, parks, and neighborhoods with trails? And could we make trails that we use 365 days a year? A celebrity, Ned Overend, has joined us tonight. So Ned, hello to you. Kudos on all of your amazing mountain biking things. Do you have any Tioga discs? Can you send them my way? What's the chance of connecting schools, parks, and neighborhoods with trails? I think this is tough, but this is where we have opportunity. There are programs such as Outride by the what was called the Specialized Foundation, but is now called Outride, where you can actually find ways to build trail infrastructure at schools and put programs together in middle schools for kids to ride bikes, and they will send you a curriculum that they can do in gym class, and they will provide matching funds to make projects happen at schools. I think the real win to do that is to find ways to create, with safe routes to school and all of those sort of programs, ways to get kids to school through the woods on private or public land where we get agreements to that sort of stuff. This has to happen at a neighborhood level. So if you've got a school and your kid walks or rides or wants to walk or ride to school, we can sit down. We can look at a map, and I urge you, if you haven't ever done this and you are in the Hamilton County area or your local area, a lot of different counties have a topographical property map. The one that you find here in Hamilton County is called CAGIS, C-A-G-I-S. If you search CAGIS Hamilton County, you can go in and for free, you can start looking at maps and see who owns what property. If you can overlay their maps, you can string together and figure out, wait, we could get a trail through this piece of public property and this piece of public property, and then we can get the kids to school. We need to take on-street infrastructure or infrastructure that is off-street like the Wasson Way and find ways to connect it via natural surface trail into neighborhoods. But that requires having access to that land. So I strongly urge people who want to see that happen, which I think is really the projects that we can all be doing at our local level, to look in their neighborhood. Where's your pocket park? Where's your Owl's Nest Park? You know, that sits in between O'Brienville and I'm trying to remember what neighborhood that is on the other side. I want to say Avondale maybe, but put Owl's Nest Park, right? Pocket park in a neighborhood. There are bike lanes. How do we connect into that park? How do we connect through neighborhoods? How do you get to those spaces? You have to help us identify that. And then we'll come and advocate with you. You want to see something happen? We want you to be the leader. We will advocate with you and put the weight and the name and the resources of our organization behind the projects you want to see. That's the biggest thing I can give you tonight in general. If you have ideas and you have a dream, we want to facilitate that happening for you. So local connections, tremendously important, definitely the way forward. Neighborhood parks, super important. They can happen. You just need to get that dream there and bring that to us so we can help move that forward. Can we expect drops and or wooden features in the future? Sure. Why not? Specifically where, I can't tell you. Wooden features and big drops and stuff like that are always challenging with specific municipalities because they're concerned about insurance or challenges like that. So one of the things we have to do is we've had to build goodwill over the past 20 years to show we're responsible stewards and that the community can take care of those sort of things and people aren't going to get hurt. That being said, I would challenge that the number of people willing to ride those is pretty small, right? I draw this graph. Don't have my book here, but I draw this graph. And the graph basically is, I'm going to draw it. Let me see. I'll find a piece of paper. The graph is basically the amount of trail that we have in this area and the amount of difficulty that it has. So you've got 2. So I'll show you. Here is the amount of trail. This is the difficulty. So we have a lot of trail right in intermediate. Intermediate, it's hard to do this backwards. Intermediate. Very little that's very, very, very difficult. Very little that is very, very easy. I would not say that we don't need drops and wooden features. I think we do. I think there are people here who can ride them. But the challenge that we have is the funnel isn't big enough. If we don't support more opportunities to get the beginners and the new riders accessibly into trail, and they just have to go out and try to climb incinerator, they're going to turn around and be done with this sport. They're not going to get in. We're not going to have the kid that, I forget his name right now, but the kid who grew up skiing at Perfect North, which is very, very accessible, who then went on to be an Olympian. We're not going to have that kid from mountain biking here. And there's guys like Tommy Zula, like that guy can shred. And that's awesome. There are plenty of people here who can do that, but that section and that group of people is really, really small. So unfortunately, it's hard for us to support that the same way until we have parents coming to us and saying, hey, my kid has outgrown everything here. I want to put my efforts and my time and my experience and my help into making bigger projects that are a little bit more daunting happen. So I think we've built up the goodwill that we can start asking for those sort of things. And frankly, if you look at Narnia and Devil's Backbone that has been being built, is being built by people who said, we want harder trails. Where can we do it? And they're doing it at Davao. And that's great. So I would encourage you, if you want to see those things, reach out to us. Like I said, if you have the dream to see that happen, reach out to us. Tell us where you think it can happen. We can get engaged with you and we can talk about that and you can help lead that process forward. It's going to be a more difficult way forward because those things are scary for land managers. Maybe not scary for the people who can ride them, but scary for land managers, but we can get there. And I think they're in the future. I think it's just us to determine how that future comes along so we make that happen and we serve that need. But also we can't forget about that beginner level that we really need to service as well so that we bring that whole line all the way up and it's not just a big independent, like in the middle intermediate riding situation. We need to serve everybody on both sides. Why can't we do both advanced and beginner options? We can. That's what we can do. We can build multiple line choice. That's what we should be doing. Most of our trail has never been built that way. It just wasn't done then. 20 years ago when we started building trail, that's not what it was done. Now, that's how things are done. And that's what we should be doing moving forward, providing scaling options with bailouts, with chicken lines, if you want to call them that, for people who aren't ready for that. I don't hit the big gap jump at Davao. I have a day job. I don't want to break my clavicle. I don't want to do it. So I just don't hit it. Call me what you will, but that's my decision. I go around it. As long as I have that option and line, I'm not locked into it. I think it's a thing we can get to a lot better. And I think there's opportunity to continue to build those things and build additional adjacent lines. So if you want to build adjacent lines and you think you've got a good spot for it, reach out to CORA. We can get you in touch with the trail steward. We can work on putting that together. So. Yeah, let's see. What is being to maintain the hiking integrity of the Mountain Area Explorer Trail, which is a national recreational trail. Section of the E-Trail have already been modified, making it difficult to through hike. Yes, the The E-Trail has been modified. You will be able to through hike end to end of the E-Trail as it previously existed. That trail is going away. It is bombed out and has massive erosion issues. We're going to fix that, but you will be able to through hike what was the old E-Trail and get through that area. So that will be taken care of. It will be hikeable and it will finally be passable. Most of that trail is not passable, possibly passable in the winter when there's no honeysuckle, but that is part of it. We are reclaiming some of that E-Trail. A lot of the stuff that is being done on the high ridge that we haven't really touched yet is using the old trail because there is some pieces of it that are good, but we are deviating from that. But you will be able to go from the base of where our trail is up and in through and all the way out up on Shepherd's Creek. So there will be through access to that. There are multiple parking lots and multiple exits, not just a loop trail. So there will be through hiking capabilities there. And yeah, we are modifying that right now. That is what we, that's what we agreed on with the city of Cincinnati and the Parks Department. And I think they're excited about those improvements. I think you will be too when you see them. So let's see. Recommendations on resources for learning about trail building and maintenance. That's a really, really, really good one. There are a lot of resources. The first one I would point you to is the United States Forest Service. If anybody has written the book on trail maintenance, it's them. IMBA actually provided a large part of the guidance to make that happen. That's the Bible, for trail builders, the world around now at this point. So a great resource for you to potentially read. There's a lot of stuff. It's like thousands of pages. It's horrendously long. That being said, if you want some real world experience, the best resources are actually here in Cincinnati. We have an awesome team of dedicated stewards who've been doing this for a long time. My recommendation is to come out to trail days and build relationships with those people. They love nothing more than teaching and showing people how to do it. Yeah, your first time out, they may be like, well, this is how you pull out honeysuckle. But eventually you'll get to the point where you're starting to learn things and digging in the dirt. And that's really powerful. Also, IMBA has a number of great resources. You can actually go to IMBA's website and gather those resources specifically on trail building. There's a number of good books they have. I think that those things are awesome. You can purchase the IMBA Trail Solutions Handbook, which is available also on Amazon. You can get it there. I think it may be even available as a download. Also, you can come out to our trail clinics. We're going to have a couple more this year. We got to wait to get the timing right on those. We've got a really busy winter, spring with a number of events we're doing, but those will be coming. Come out to a trail clinic. You can ask these questions. You can learn those things. We're trying to provide more educational opportunities. We see that as something we need to be doing into communities so that we can grow the number of people who are really good at doing this. Like I said, the board is 9 people. Our trail stewards are another, 50 people. If we had 200 people who were doing this, this would be awesome. We would all have so much better trail to hike or bike or be equestrians or all of that on. I think there's an opportunity for all of us to get there. Let's see. What about allowing e-bikes? Alan, good question. This is one we dance around a lot. I can't speak for the board. This is a conversation we're going to be having on Saturday in our strategic planning that we do every year. This is an issue. E-assist mountain bikes are a thing. The jury is not out on their impact. There have been impact studies done. I hate to tell you this, but the impact is no different than a bike. Will they be allowed places? That's not up for me to determine. The current Ohio and Kentucky laws do not require e-bikes to be allowed on trails. That is up to a land manager to decide. At this point, the organization is not taking a position on whether they should be allowed or whether they should not be allowed. Our position is, quite frankly, no position, which is the land managers get to choose what their position is. It's their investment. It's their trail. They get to choose. I think this is a conversation that our community has to have at a deeper level and has to have not on Facebook and not in forums. We have to sit down and we have to talk about this all together. We have to think about everyone involved in this conversation, not just those of us who want to say that e-bikes don't exist because they're unpure, or people who may have an accessibility issue and need an e-assist bike. I have seen them change lives, and I understand why people don't want them on trails. I get all of these pieces of it, and I think this is an important conversation for us to have. I just don't think necessarily a format where I'm talking at you is very good for that conversation. Also, I don't think it's a good place to have this conversation on the internet. It's not worth it. What we need to do is get focus groups together, and we need to sit down and we need to talk about what the organization's position needs to be, and we really need to communicate with the community, because this affects all of us. And I think if you see the way the industry is going, we're not going to escape having e-assist bikes on trails. They're going to be there anyways. And I think we have to learn and think about how we educate people about their correct use and the right places and the places they are allowed currently and in the future. So it's a bigger discussion to have. This is unfortunately not the perfect place to have it. If you're all hanging on for a while, I don't know how many people are hanging out in there, but we can continue on a little bit and answer a couple more of these questions. I have a couple announcements I want to drive. I don't want to keep you too late in the night, and I appreciate everybody hopping in and joining. So it's been good. Oh, cool. Well, that's good. We'll carry on just a little bit longer. We get these last ones closed out here. All right. What can we do to convince the people who act like they're interested in a trail day but never actually come out? I feel like this one's directed at me, Will. This one feels like it's directed at me. I've said this before, and I've said it to you. So a lot of times you'll get pressure. Hey, you need to come out to a trail day. Why do I never see you at trail days? Not everybody wants to dig in the dirt. Not everybody's good at it. Some of us just don't have that skill set. Some of us don't have that specific time. Maybe trail days are on a Sunday morning and you go to church every Sunday. That's fine. I don't expect people to do things that they don't necessarily have the time to do or the desire to do, but they still want to ride their mountain bike, but they still want to give back. I think the opportunity is greater when we think about what we can be doing outside of just digging trail. Digging trail is tremendously important. It's the lifeblood of how we take care of things around here, right? It literally is. It's how we built 100 miles of trail, volunteer built, some machine built, some paid for, but really primarily volunteer built. And it's thanks to all of you who've put the time in to do this. We wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be doing this weird AMA if it wasn't for you guys. But the thing that I've learned is that we all have power in the places that we're best at. And if you're really good at logistics, come on board. Help us figure out how to build a crazy race. Like, help us figure out how to do that. If you're really good at public speaking, come take some of the load and learn some of the talking points and help go into town meetings and work on convincing people to let trails happen in their area and advocate for that stuff. If you're great at building a website, we got a team. Are you really, really good at managing social media? Is that like what you do by your day job and you want to give back, but you don't have time to dig trail? We need people to work in communications and help us with our social media strategy. This is a game changer. So, Will, as much as you always give me a tough time about not digging on Sunday mornings with you at Mount Airy, I know this is what this is about. I'm giving my time by spending 3 hours, because there's setup time, on my Thursday night to answer questions for folks. And for me, that's where I found I'm most effective, is doing what I'm good at, as opposed to going out and doing something that I'm okay at. Now, I still show up to trail days, and I built a bunch of trail at Mount Airy, and I pulled a ton of honeysuckle out there all last summer. So I know what it takes, and it is a lot, but I would hesitate to say you got to come out and do a trail day. What I would suggest is give where your talents are best and give of yourself to others. It is the greatest thing I've learned and gives me the most wonderful feeling in the world, but use your talent as opposed to just digging if you can't make it. So was the Ohio Horsemen's Council included in the planning of Mount Airy, as they did a lot of work on the trails that they can no longer use. The Ohio Horsemen's Council has no access in that section. All the horse trails on the other side. That trail is not horse access, and may have been in the past, but upon last use was not. Ohio Horsemen's Council, fantastic folks. Work with them a lot out at East Fork and at some other state parks. Really excited about bringing them into the conversation. Parks is currently working on getting a symposium/public forum out that hopefully be in mid-February in Northside. We're waiting on a date for that. We will publicize it. Please come out. What we're going to be doing is sitting down with everyone who is a Parks Trails user in Mount Airy and saying, what do we need? What do you want to see? What are your concerns? What are you excited about? Mountain bikers, we want to see you there. Hikers, we want to see you there. Trail runners, we want to see you there. This is a parks event. I just know Steve Shuckman's working on it. I'm excited to be there and get all of our, not concerns, but our excitement for what we can do together out to everyone. So hopefully it's a time for us to engage with the people who are doing equestrian trail out on the other side of Mount Airy, because they're trail users too. We have to be an ecosystem where we all work together. Trail days on Saturdays. Again, yes, maybe Don, if you want to run some trail days at specific places, you know the people to talk to, Don. You want to put trail day together on a Saturday? I know you can swing it. You know who to talk to. That's important. We want to see that happen. So I will hop off here. I want to leave you with a couple quick things before I do so. First, I want to let you know that we are kicking off. I need this last sip of beer. My throat's kind of dry. We are kicking off our membership drive. We're not doing this in coordination with them by the way they've done before, but we are running a new membership drive this year. It kicks off now. It runs through till, I believe, our annual meeting. So it runs from the 27th. So that'll be later this week, or pardon me, early next week, Monday, until February 23rd, 2020, which is the annual meeting at Rheingeist. So you get tickets for a raffle. By a $39 membership, you're going to get one ticket for that raffle. If you sign up for the $5 a month renewing membership, it's a monthly membership. It'll auto renew every month. $5 a month. You pay that for Netflix, or way less than that for Netflix, right? Geez, Netflix is what, like 12 or 13 now? Netflix is stupid. It's stupid expensive. You ride trails a whole lot more than you Netflix, I hope. So if you sign up for monthly auto renewal at $5 a month, you're going to get 2 raffle tickets. If you sign up for $10 or up, you will get 3 raffle ticket entries. And guys, we have amazing prizes for you. First, a $300 Airbnb gift card, a CORA shirt, a CORA hat, and a CORA ceramic mug. That is the absolute grand prize. $300 Airbnb gift card. You want to go see what Bakers Creek in Knoxville is about? You get an Airbnb down there on CORA if you win the raffle. So that's the first one. There's runner-up prizes. We have 4 of those, a CORA shirt, hat, and CORA ceramic mug. If you haven't seen the ceramic mugs, they are gorgeous. Sherman got those sorted out. Put those up on our Facebook last week or this week, so you can check those out. Winners will be announced February 23rd at the annual meeting. You are not required to be in attendance to win. So even if you can't make the annual meeting, go, become a member, get your raffles in. If trails are really important to you and you want to spend your NPR membership on it a month, do that. That's what we want to see. $10 a month, get 3 tickets, get a better shot at getting that Airbnb card. Let's see what else. We'll have packages mailed to you after your sizing is confirmed for shirts and all that sort of stuff. And our mugs are going to be done by Humbert Pottery. So those will be done in March and then shipped out to the folks. A couple other real quick things. As I said, annual meeting is September 16th. In the afternoon, TBD time, but at Rheingeist in their big section on the right when you come up the stairs. Awesome. We are so stoked and so thankful for Rheingeist being engaged. This is the venue I've been trying to nail for years. So thanks to Dennis Kramer Wine and the whole team over at Rheingeist setting this up, making this happen. We are really, really excited about sharing with you what we've got going on. Also, massive this year, we are working on a project with Cincinnati Parks and the Cincinnati Parks Foundation to build a skills park in Mount Airy's forest, a skills trail and like skill pump track, all those sort of little things that we need to have, and a beginner trail with elevated options that will be adaptive cycle use available. We can have people on hand mountain bikes on it. We're going to build it that way. So it'll be flow trail, beginner flow trail, but it will be flow trail. We're going to build that in Mount Airy. So we're going to be fundraising this year at the Trailblazers Ball on March 28th, 2020. That's at Longworth Hall. Go to trailblazersball.org. And we have our first gold sponsor already. So a huge thanks to AeroSeal Duct Technologies and Dan Crow. You guys are awesome. We're so stoked to have you aboard. If you want to go sponsor or become a donor in any way, sign up for any of the raffles, you can do that. But go purchase tickets now. They will sell out. We sold out last year in weeks. It was crazy. So come see us. You can see us all in our fancy gear. Have a cocktail with us. Enjoy some time. Please, trailblazersball.org, and let's make that happen. So that's all I've got for you guys tonight. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. You folks are amazing. You are the reason that we do this. As I've said before, you are CORA. Anything I haven't answered, please send to our Facebook or send an email to info@coramtb.org. Share with us your thoughts, your questions, how this went, and most importantly, get engaged. If you've got a dream and something you want to see in this community, it's not up to us to build it for you. It's up to you to come to us so we can facilitate it happening. So we look forward to seeing you and working with you in the 2020. We'll talk to you soon. Cheers.